Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here to GFAN webinar. This is the first webinar this year, 2024. Thanks, everyone. I have some announcements to do. First of all, next week, we are going to open our call for papers for our GFAN meeting this year. It is going to be on September 26 to 28 at INSPER. It's in the institution here in São Paulo. Our keynote speakers will be Marianne Bertrand and Liz Westerlund. So we have these keynotes, confirmed keynotes, and the call for paper is going to open next week, and it will be open by May until May 5th. So please submit your papers and join us at GFAN meeting. Today we have the pleasure to receive Alejandro Sierra.
Yeah,
Podonico, okay, here at GFAN. And I met him last year at LACEA. We were at the same session, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Alejandro. He has a PhD in economics from the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. He just got a new job because he finished his he finished the job market, and now he's working at the Universidad Mayor de Chile as an assistant professor, and also at Núcleo Milênio sobre la Evolución del Trabajo. He is also interested in family economics, also, of course, labor market, search models, and domestic violence. So nice to have you here, Alejandro. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorena, for the invitation. This is my first time here in GFAN. This is my first time I present this paper. Can you see the screen?
Not yet. Maybe more. One second.
Give me a second, please. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes? Perfect. Okay. Thank you for inviting me to this session. I present You Are Nothing Without Me, Domestic Violence and Divorce. It's a work with Alexander Janek and Jana Fortune. Both are professor of Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. Internet partner violence, for now IPV, is a global issue. 1 in 3 women have been subjected to IPV, no partner violence, no partner sexual violence, or both, at least once in their lifetime. The potential societal benefits of comprehending the factor underlying IPV and implementing a good policy to mitigate it could be significant to the society. In this paper, we study the relationship between women empowerment and IPV. And for us, the empowerment for women is access to easy divorce. The evidence between easy divorce and IPV is mixed in the literature. In the case of United States, Spain, and Egypt, the transition to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce implies a reduction in IPV. The potential explanation for that is bargaining theory. Reduction in violence due to the increase of bargaining power of women, facilitated by the change of law. Otherwise, in the case of Mexico, the transition to mutual consent to unilateral divorce increased IPV. And the potential explanation for that is the backlash theory. that violence might escalate as a result of a man feeling their traditional role is under threat due this change of law. And in our research, introduce alternative mechanisms to clarify the outcomes observed in the empirical evidence. We propose a theoretical model where violence can be used as a retention method in our work. The name of this type of violence is coercive violence, or as a response of exogenous cues. In the name here is cue-triggered violence. Is the name in the model. In the context of the model, the transition to mutual consent to unilateral divorce, the incidence of cue-trigger of violence decreased IPV. But in the context only with coercive violence, the transition to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce increased IPV. This is the principal result of my theoretical model. And the incidence of the violence is influenced by the regime of divorce. Depends in the economy there is a bilateral divorce or unilateral divorce. And we study 3 countries: Spain, Mexico, and United States, where there are changes in the divorce law, and tested the application of the theoretical model. The benchmark in the economy, there is a pool of, yes?
Sorry,
Please?
I have
Yes?
a question about the former yes, this one. What's the difference between cue-trigger violence and coercive violence?
Cue-trigger violence is exogenous violence. Is by exogenous violence is by signals.
Okay.
It's by signals. This is exogenous. But in the case of coercive violence, it's endogenous. It's endogenous violence. There are 2 types of violence: exogenous violence, cue-trigger violence, and endogenous violence, is coercive violence.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. In the context of the model, the main benchmark of the economy, there is a pool of agents I that can match with agent J and live 2 periods, and both discount the future with beta. Each agent have a set of exogenous characteristics, X and Y, and each agent can marry or single in each period. And if the agent is single, receive B in each period. This is the utility of being single. And each agent find a partner with probability P. Let's theta, it's a random variable drawn from F with positive numbers. This is a random variable of the match. If agent K, the agents are 2, Y and J. If agent K must be I or K. And if agent K is matched, receive a theta plus omega. Theta is a random variable, and omega is a utility of marriage, and depends on the characteristic of both agents. And omega is constant. In the second period, both agents might experience a change in their random variable. Their theta change with probability lambda. And we consider 2 types of divorce: unilateral and bilateral divorce. And this is the timing of the model. There is a mass of agents with probability P matched with someone. This D represents the decision of agent I if wants to marry or not. If they take 2 values, 1 or 0. Then if both decide to marry, then in the second period, change their theta and again take the decision for married or divorce. And in the case of single, in the first period is single, with probability P now match again with someone, and in this period match decide to marry or not. In the context of this in the second period, the equation 1 is the utility of agent K under unilateral divorce. Agent K choose two things: being single or married. If agent K choose single, they have the utility D. But if wants to be married, they have zeta plus omega, but depends of the decision of the partner. This D minus K is the decision of the partner if you want stay in the marriage or not. For example, if D takes the value 0, then in the equation 1 is the max between B or B. Then agent K remains single. This is the context of unilateral divorce. In the context of bilateral divorce, the agent K choose the same, single or married, but if agent K wants to be single, depends of the decision of the partner. Why? Because if agent choose S, for example, depends of the decision of the partner. For example, if D is equal 1, then this is 0, then they have the treaty of marriage. Then, in the context of unilateral divorce, the decision of divorce depends of the both agents. But in the context of the unilateral divorce, depends only the one agent. And for these two regimes, there is a value with zeta in red. That is a value where both agents are indifferent between being single or not. This is the result of the benchmark economy, where this represents the bilateral regime, where there are three zones of marriage. Why? For example, we analyze this zone. In this zone, agent I wants to be married, but agent J no. Agent J wants to do divorce. But in the context of bilateral divorce, both agents must be agreed for that. That's because it's the zone of marriage. And the logic here is the same. Here, agent I wants to leave the relation, but then agent J wants to stay in the relationship. And in the context of bilateral divorce, there is a zone of marriage. And in this zone, both agents are agreeing in the relationship. That is a zone where nobody wants to leave the relationship. And in this zone, both zeta of both agents are less than the threshold. Then it's a zone of divorce. Both agents are agreed to leave the relationship. Here, in the context of unilateral divorce, there are three zones of divorce, because here agent I wants to be in the relationship, but agent J no. And in the context of unilateral divorce,
it failed a little. Can you repeat?
Yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. It's a phone call. In the context of unilateral divorce, there are three zones of divorce and one zone of marriage. In this zone, agent I wants to stay in the relationship, but agent J no. There is a context of unilateral divorce. Only the marriage is stay. The marriage stay in the marriage exists if both agents are agree of that. In this context, only agent I wants to stay in the relationship, but agent J no. And that is the reason that's a zone of divorce. And here it's the same. Agent J wants to stay in the relationship, but agent A wants to leave the relationship. And in the context of unilateral divorce, occurs this zone of divorce. And this is the only zone where both agents are agreeing the relationship. This is the only zone of marriage. And this is the context of the benchmarking economy. Now, I add a technology. This technology, the name is coercive violence. The coercive violence is a method of the retention. And I solved this model with a sequential game. And this is the timing of my model. And this technology is only available to previously for married agents. The stage 1, there is a updating in zeta. Both agents know their zeta. Draw from F. In stage 2, there is the decision of agent I, the decision of violence, or decision and the decision of divorce. there is a cost of the violence for agent I. If the cost is A, and if the violence is applied, the outside option of agent J decreases in B plus T. And the utility of marriage for agent J reducing T. The third stage is the decision of J. The decision to stay in the marriage or not. And the fourth stage is the payment for both agents. And the logic is similar to the benchmark economy. In the question 3 is the decision under unilateral divorce.
Alejandro,
yes?
why the utility and the last slide? Why the utility if violence applied, agents J's outside option decreases? But
See.
Why the outside option decreases? It should increase, isn't it?
It's decrease outside option because the outside option is the value of being single. The logic of the model is the coercive violence. I reduce the utility to being single. Then agent J wants to be married because now the utility of being single is lower with this new technology. This is the logic of this. Maybe on the utility with the utility maybe it's more clear if I show the equation.
Okay.
The equation the outside option is from agent J, not for agent I. Agent A choose single, married, and choose the violence. This T take the value 1 or 0. 1 is use coercive violence and 0 no. And the cost of the violence is A. This is the cost of agent I to use violence. This is the value being single for agent A. This is utility in the marriage under unilateral divorce, depends on the decision of the partner. And there's the cost of use violence. In the case of agent J, this is the utility to being single, but if agent I use violence, there is a decrease in the outside option, B plus T. This is the decrease. And if they use violence, decrease in Chi, the utility if they stay in the marriage. So this is the decrease in the outside option, B plus T. And in this context, the only Nash equilibrium in this game where violence exists is in the question 5. I show that in the paper. The only Nash equilibrium where violence exists is in the question 5. And in the context of bilateral divorce, the logic is the same, but depends of the decision of the partner if the divorce or not, because both agents must be agreed for divorce in the context of bilateral divorce. And the structure of the utility is similar to the benchmark economy, but there is the cost of use of violence here for agent I, and is the reduced upside option in B plus T. But B is like the disutility of violence. In this case, there is not Nash equilibrium. Violence is not in equilibrium. And the resume of this is in this figure. In this zone, this is the context of bilateral divorce. In this zone, it's not violence. Why? The logic is the following. Because violence is a method of retention. And in the context of bilateral divorce, it's not necessary. Because both agents must be agreed for divorce. This technology is redundant in this context. And in the context of yes, David.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you in the last.
No, yes.
So it seems to me that you get asymmetric equilibria, but your model, I didn't see any asymmetry in the model. Did I just not see something that was
there is a asymmetry in the sense that only one agent have the technology to use violence.
Okay, I thought both.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so So since I asked that, just for clarification, so Z is your status if you're single or married, and X and Y, I'm not sure what they are.
X and Y. This your reminds of the axis.
No, in your model, you have omega, a function of X and
Omega.
Y.
Yeah, it is from the characteristic of model. In this only define the threshold. In this model, only define the threshold. But because here this theta depends on the characteristic X and Y. Only define the threshold of the characteristic.
What kind of characteristics?
For example, this is a work in progress. For now, the characteristic may be the income or the education. We want to use this type of characteristic to model with the data. But for now, I don't use it. Only for this time of the model is only define the threshold.
Maybe if the couple has kids or not, maybe that's something that will affect your decision. But
sorry,
maybe if they have kids or not, how many kids they have, if it's zero or if it's more than zero. So okay, so and just one more question, then I'll shut up. I may be wrong about this, but I think in many cultures you don't have a symmetric a legislation or a structure of how divorces happen, because it may be biased towards men. I would say so. So sometimes I don't know if that happens in any of the countries that you've looked at in terms of legislation, but it could be that the men can say if they want a divorce and then the divorce is granted to them, but the women could not, and the men would have to sign something. Being Jewish, I know that that's how it happens for Orthodox Jews. The man has to say if they will divorce or not, and the women is just a spectator. But I don't know if that's something that happens in terms of countries or not, because you're only looking at two different how do you say, models that are symmetric, the unilateral and the bilateral, but there could be an asymmetry there. And a follow-up question would be, well, maybe the asymmetry is going the wrong direction. Maybe the women should have the say, and they could say if since they don't have the possibility of choosing violence, maybe policy conclusion would be that women should have the unilateral say. If they want a divorce, then the divorce happens, but men could not.
Now
I'll shut up.
No, it's a good question. In my model, I can modulate that. Can I modulate the symmetry? Maybe it's there in the same line that you say. The paper in Egypt that I talk about, men have in theory unilateral divorce, and women have bilateral divorce with the change. And there is a symmetry in Egypt, for example. If you see the paper, it's true that men have no more right, but in the society, for example, it's more common than men to access to divorce, and for women it's more difficult. And
what is it called again?
The name is this Corrani and Buccione, this paper.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with I adapt, for example, I can adapt my model for that, for asymmetry of the decision. For example, Agent A have a unilateral divorce, and in the same context, Agent J have a bilateral, and yeah, I can do that. It's very flexible. My model, I can do that. Yeah, thank you. And this is the result of the only with coercive violence. In the context of bilateral divorce, is not violence in equilibrium. But in unilateral divorce, there's violence. This zone is a zone of coercive violence. In the if you remember in the benchmark economy, this zone is a zone of divorce, but now agent I could retain agent J with this technology, and this is a zone with marriage and divorce. And in this zone, it's zone of only marriage. And why is that? Because in this zone, agent J wants to leave the relationship, and agent I use coercive violence as a method of retention. And in this zone, there is a marriage with violence. And this zone depends of the events of A, that is the cause of violence, and it depends of the suitability for agent J of the violence. And if we compare the bilateral divorce with unilateral divorce, there is an increase in violence and increase in divorce. And the following proposition is where there is a transition from mutual consent to unilateral divorce, there will be an increase in divorce and an increase in violence. In the context of unilateral divorce, the increase in the cost of violence, let's say, or decrease in the suitability of violence of part of J, there is a decrease in IPV. But in the context of bilateral divorce, the change of A or B, there is no change in IPV. Now I add transfers in this context. There are coercive violence and transfers. And transfers, the transfers are designed to induce indifference to agent J to stay in the marriage or not. And the transfer I designed with a match bargaining, where alpha represents the bargaining power of agent A, and this is the surplus of agent I. This is the value will be in the marriage minus the transfer minus the value of being single, and this is the of the agent J. This is the value of staying in the marriage plus the transfer minus the value being single. And I assume that alpha is equal 1. That means agent I have the maximal bargaining power. The equations are very similar. Only add this term S in the context of bilateral divorce and unilateral divorce. Then agent I have they choose their single or married, choose use violence, and choose the transfer with the logic of Dutch bargaining. And then the result of the model is this: in the context of bilateral divorce, there is no violence and there is no transfers. Why? Because transfers and violence is a method of retention, and in the context of bilateral divorce, it's redundant. But in the context of unilateral divorce, there are transfers and coercive violence only if the cost of violence is less than the suitability for agent J. Then if this is not true, there is not violence in equilibrium. And what is the logic of that? In this zone, the small triangle. For example, imagine that agent I have a zeta of B, for example, and agent J have a zeta of 0. Then agent I transfer B to J, and then they remain in the relationship. And that is the logic. This is a diagonal here. This is the transfer to agent I to transfer to agent J, and this zone is a zone of violence because here coercive violence is cheaper than transfer. Then use coercive violence as a method of retention, and then it's a small zone than the case without transfers. And if we have a more zeta is there are a greater value of zeta J, then in this zone transfer are cheaper than violence. Then in this zone it's marriage with transfers. This zone is only marriage, is without transfers, is without violence. This zone is violence and marriage with violence, and this is a zone with only transfers. And this is increasing in A, the zone of violence. It's similar of the case of the only with transfers. And if we compare now bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce, there is an increasing violence if the cause of violence for agent A is less than the disability for agent J. And there is an increase in divorce in this context. Then I found the following proposition. When transition from bilateral to unilateral divorce, coercive violence increase when the agent of type A have access to a transfer if A is less than B.
What, Alejandro, A
Yes.
is the, what's A?
Is the cause of the coercive violence for agent A.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And B is the disutility for agent J.
Okay. The A is the.
Upside option is the
Okay.
reversal of the upside option.
Okay. Okay.
Then, in the context of unilateral divorce, if A is greater than B, there is no violence equilibrium. And in the context, if A is less than B, if A increase or B decrease, there's a decrease in APB. And it is in under unilateral divorce. Under bilateral divorce, their change in the cause of violence or disability in violence, they're not affected in IPV. And now we add, sorry, I add a lot of technology. I add a coercive violence. Now we have a word with coercive violence and Q-trigger violence. I solved this with a sequential game, and this is the timing. Stage one, there is an objective in theta. Decision stage two is the decision of the agent A, decision of violence, the coercive violence, and divorce. The cause is the same, A, and if violence is applied for agent J, the observation begins in B plus C, and the utility is the same marriage, agent J stay in the marriage, decreasing C. The stage three is the decision of agent J. Agent J decide divorce or not. The stage four is the Q trigger. The Q trigger is exogenous. With probability T, agent I, who are married, this is important, the only is for married couples, use Q trigger violence. And the cause of the use this violence, the cause of the violence is A, is the same that the cause of violence, and the utility of the marriage of agent J falls in B plus C. And the cost, it is important too, the cost of the violence is only paid once. For example, if agent I use coercive violence and use Q-trigger violence, only pay A, no 2A. And the final station is the payment of the payment for both agents. And in this context, in bilateral divorce, there is a Q-trigger violence because it is exogenous. And the decision of marriage change because this theta plus D, B plus C, this is the threshold in the case of without Q-trigger violence, but there is a probability D that the disability, also the disability of the utility of marriage of agent G decreased in B plus C. That's the reason that now this is the new threshold to decision to marry or not. And the same for agent A. This is in the case without Q-trigger violence, this is the cutoff to the decision to different between marriage or not. But with probability, some agent I use Q-trigger violence. Now is the cause of the decision to marriage increasing theta. And this zone is the zone of Q-trigger violence. And if we change to unilateral divorce, there's a decrease in violence. And this zone is only for Q-trigger violence, without coercive violence. But in this zone, it's zone with coercive violence and Q-trigger violence. And it's similar in the case of coercive violence, but the difference that there are a zone with exogenous violence. And this is the reason that there is a decrease in violence here. Then my last proposition is when Q-trigger violence occurs with probability, transition from bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce will lead to more divorce, but might decrease decrease ITV if D is large enough. This effect is increasing in A. And this is the logic of my model. Now I go to the data. If you don't have a question, I hope to the data. I study first United States. Yes, David, please.
I'm sorry, I know Lorena already asked this, but I didn't understand the answer. Could you give an example of a Q trigger violence?
Yes, of course. There's a paper of Carr. It's a beautiful paper. Then he showed that there is an increase in IPV where some soccer teams wins. For example, there is a surprise. For example, I don't know, some team have zero probability to win some match and wins. That event increase the probability of IPV because it's a surprise. It's a surprise for persons, for example, to see the match and use the sorry, I explain again. In the paper
let me ask you this: a coercive violence instance would be saying, if you divorce me, I'll do such and such and such. That would be coercion. And how about the trigger one?
Trigger is signals. For example, some team, I don't know, some drunk person use violence for the partner. Events affect me, and I use violence for that. These are signals. The agent I receive some signals. They signal receive the signal, and because of that, use violence for their partner.
And okay.
Yes.
And they know what they are doing. It's not that they're doing it unknowingly. Oh, someone is asking something.
Carmen, is Q trigger violence like an expected type of violence provoked by an external factor?
Yeah, Q trigger violence is like an expected type of violence. Yeah, it's by external factor. Yes, yeah, yes. For example, the example of match, I don't know, Colo-Colo versus I don't know, Universidad de Chile, for example, the soccer team. Colo-Colo wins, and some people from Universidad de Chile is angry and use violence for them.
They use violence at home.
Use violence at home.
We have a paper about this with Brazilian data also.
Really?
Yes.
Send me this.
I'll send you. Yeah. The two authors are from GFAN also.
Really? Send me this paper, please.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the logic of Q trigger. It's for external factor. Yes. See, yes, thank you very much. And in the context of the United States, we use data from Stevenson and Wolfers, which consider as surveys that provide cross-sectional data from year to 76 and 1985. The control group in this paper is the state that had not passed to unilateral divorce law, and those that had already passed. In 1969, California was the first state to have a unilateral divorce, for example. In 76, there are 31 states have changed their divorce law, and in 1985, only 4. And we use a word of Berning and Hepburn. They have information about guns law in 11 states in the United States. And we run this regression. IPV takes value 1 or 0. is in the definition in the paper of Stephen R. Wolfer is if women A in the past year there has been an incident of domestic violence, like pushed or beaten, and this is the classification in the paper of in the paper of Stevenson and Wolfers. And unilateral, take the value 1 if the state S have a unilateral divorce or not. And post, take the value 1 if it's the survey of 1985. And guns law, take the value 1 if some state S have some restriction in guns law. And the control in the paper of Wolfers are age, race, education, income, current employment, of both, of the partner and for the husband and the woman A. I control with a state fixed effect and time fixed effect. And the guns law in the work of Bernick and Hepburn are organized as a follow. One group is a restriction on sale and purchase. The second group is a law of possession of carrying and storage. And the third is the increasing penalty of use guns on some crime. Then I ran the regression, and we found if some states have a more restrictive guns law, have a unilateral divorce, and is in the survey of 1985, there is a decrease in IPV. The only have no significance is the case of second group is love of possession and carrying. But in the case of restriction of sale purchase is significant at 1%. And if we combine the restriction, there is a decrease in IPV. And if we take the assumption that approximately the guns law lies a cause of the use violence, this is in line with the theoretical model. Then taking gun restriction as a proxy for a cause of violence, then a state where there was change in the legislation, the transition to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce, and they have a more restrictive guns law, then there are decrease in IPV. And this is in line with our theoretical model. There is no question. I go to the Mexico, the other paper. We use the data from Garcia Ramos 2021, which consists a survey that provides a cross-sectional of the year 2006, 2011, and 2016. From 2008 to 2016, there are 14 states that introduced unilateral divorce. In Mexico, the total state are 33. Yeah, if I am not wrong. And this equation 4 is the estimation of Garcia Ramos. There is the estimation in the paper. And they control by age and indigenous background, education, if they have children or not, and they have a socio-economical index. Because in the survey in Mexico, have information on the asset of in the house, and they estimate a index for that. And she have a state fixed effect and time fixed effect, and this represent the reform take two values. For example, K equals 1 represent if some state is exposed once to unilateral divorce, and K equal 2 is the state is exposed twice to unilateral divorce. For example, in some states, I don't know, Tijuana maybe approved the unilateral divorce in 2010, In the total data, K is equal to, because they exposed it twice in 2011 and 2016. And with this logic, we construct two types of index. We construct a progressive perception index that is a question in the same survey of the dynamics of household relationship. It's the survey from Mexico for the year 2006. Then in this survey is the information about the incidence of IPV or not. That the same survey that used Garcia Ramos. And we construct some index. We normalize the question, and we categorize in two groups. The first group is opinion on male and female roles. And for example, one question is: can a woman choose her friends even if her husband doesn't like it? This type of question in this section. And in the other the other section is do you agree or disagree for some statement. And for example, women have the right to live a life free of violence. And we use this question to construct our index. This normalize this index, which means 0 and this standard deviation equals 1. And I use other survey, world value surveys. I only use Mexico, and I have two groups in this with this survey. Justify, for example, divorce, and other, for example, justify divorce or abortion, or other group. The other group is do you agree or disagree for some statement? For example, women have the same right as men. And if they get a job, for the same job, men and women must the salary must the same for both. And this type of statement in the survey. With this, we estimate this equation, and sorry, I don't say that. But for Garcia Ramos, lambda, the coefficient lambda equals 2 represent the effect of a long term. In this paper, this lambda is positive. That means there's a long-term effect of the change of law. There is an increase in IPV. This is the result of Garcia Ramos. And with this logic in mind, we estimate the regression, and for we have a decrease in IPV if the states change their divorce law, if they change to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce, and for state they have a more progressive values, there is a decrease in IPV in long term. And this is in line with the theoretical model. Then state they have the transition to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce, and also have a more progressive attitudes toward women. They have less IPV in long term. And we suppose a proxy that the more progressive values as a cost of use violence, for example. It's cost it's more costly for the men to use violence. That's as assumption of this. Then there is an increase in A, there is a decrease in IPV in the context of unilateral divorce. And finally, I study Spain. How much time I have? How much I have?
Sorry, I didn't hear. More 10, 15 minutes if you.
Yeah, I have time. Thank you. In the case of Spain, I used the data from Brasiolo to 2016. The change in the divorce law to bilateral to bilateral divorce in Spain was in 2005. In contrast with United States and Mexico, in Mexico and the United States, the change of law is the state level, but in Spain, it's a national level. And the the surveys that analyzed by Brasiolo at a cross section is 1999, 2002, and 2006. Yeah, I used the same survey, world value survey for Spain. Yeah, I consult the same progressive values index. I estimate this equation 16, where IPV, if there is take the value 0 or 1, if there is some incidence of domestic violence for women A in the autonomous community S at the year T. And married is the women is married or not. Check the 1 is married and 0 not. And post represents the change the law. If the change of regime, the change it takes the value 1 if Spain is under unilateral divorce. And the control from Brasiolo are 8, women education, age, presence of children, and urban residence or not. And with this, they have I have state fixed effect and time fixed effect. Then I run the relation. I don't have evidence of that. There is no evidence that progressive values affect the IP.
Alejandro,
Yeah.
sorry, but if it's a national law, how do you? I don't understand. Post is going to be one for everyone.
Yeah, post is one for everyone. Yes, but maybe there is some change between some autonomous community are more progressive than other. Maybe there is a change in IPV for that, but it's not the evidence for this. There is no change in IPV, but it's true that in this context, all the autonomous community have a unilateral divorce. And but I use other word. I use the word of Anna Turpratz. It's a paper of 2019, and she showed that there is a long-term influence on IPV with the structure of the family in the 19th century, and this effect of the violence today. We use information from the census of the 19th century and calculate the diverse type of family in Spain. And in Spain, there are 2 types of family: nuclear family and STEM family. Nuclear family are all the children leave their home when they become married. In the case of STEM family, one child, it's the man, remain with the parents and establish their family together. This is the 2 type of family in Spain. The word of Anna Truplatz, she showed that where in province, where the STEM family are prevalent, there are lower levels of IPV today. They show that in that paper. It's a beautiful paper. And the potential explanation of that is that in their home, there are 2 women, the mother-in-law and the wife contribution increase in the income of the house. They increase the bargaining power. And that's the explanation why there is a relationship of the type of family and IPV. And the way of measure the STEM family in Spain is the widows plus married women in divided by the house, the quantity of household. Yes, David?
Isn't there endogeneity there? I mean, if there is more violence in the household, you would expect the family to not be one of these STEM kinds, the nuclear kinds, where if there's violence, you'll just leave and go live somewhere else
But
with your new
violence,
family.
but violence in the day, for example, in those of these years, or violence in 19th century.
Can you repeat that,
because
please?
this the logic this is she studied the composition of family in the 19th century, and this
Yeah,
composition has effect on the violence today.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And this is the way to they measure the same family. And this is the family types in Spain in the 19th century. This song represents a more STEM family, for example, and this song represents a more nuclear family in the 19th century. Then I use this information to run the relation, and I find evidence that there is an increase in IPV. Then, if for married women, when the unilateral divorce is approved by in Spain, and they have more STEM family, there is an increase in STEM family in the 19th century. Then there is an increase in IP. Then for autonomous communities, they had a STEM family in the past, in the 19th century. The change in divorce law led to an increase in IPV relative to the nuclear family. And one potential explanation is maybe for my model, maybe there is a more literature in sociology to explain that, maybe there is a bargaining power because women contribute to the income of the house, but if she wants to leave the relationship, maybe the husband use coercive violence to hold her back. But for this result, maybe there is a other potential explanation in the sociology literature. And to conclude remarks, we propose a model which there is a transition to bilateral divorce to unilateral divorce. The decision of divorce is endogenous, and this transition could escalate or mitigate violence. And it depends on the type of violence. There are two violence in my model: coercive violence and Q-trigger violence. Coercive violence is a method of retention, and Q-trigger is a exogenous violence. In scenarios where Q-trigger is ready, the change to bilateral to unilateral divorce increase violence. But in situation where Q-trigger is prevalent, the transition to mutual consent to unilateral divorce, there is a decrease in violence. In the data, we show that in the United States and Mexico, if there is an increasing in cost of the violence, in the case of the United States there is a more restrictive guns law, or there are more progressive values in some states. There is a decrease in IPV in the context of unilateral divorce. And thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. We can open for questions. I've done mine, but I have more an observation, because you are running a triple difference.
Yes.
You be careful when you do the when you interpret them, the results, because
Okay.
it's a little bit tricky.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I can send you two papers that I use, because I run a triple difference also in one of my working papers, and it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. And this is my first time I present this work, and I'm very happy for the comment. Thank you, David, for the comment. I'm very useful.
No, thank you. All the empirical part is really not my, I'm not so well versed in it to appreciate it, but the model is very interesting, and I think that if you could compare it to even if it is a theoretical institution in which there is unilateral divorce, but only unilateral for women and not for men, maybe it could raise a policy conclusion that might be interesting, since the asymmetry is on the possibility of resorting to violence or not, and it's only men who can do that. So, but it's very interesting, very interesting research.
Thank you very much.
Maybe understand, look for countries that they have different cultures.
Yeah. I use this country because it's the only paper they have causal evidence of the change of bilateral to unilateral divorce. But maybe this is a good idea to maybe use Egypt. Maybe
I would guess, it's really a guess, but I would guess then that in several Arab countries and maybe in several African countries, maybe there is an institution which is not one of the two that you looked at, which is unilateral but for men, not unilateral for any of the spouses. And what I was thinking is, since that would give two privileges to the man, because he can resort to violence and also he is the only one who has the say on divorce. Maybe you could balance it with a unilateral institution, but not for men, but for women. But that's just a guess.
Yeah. I liked it. And please send me to the triple difference, please. Yeah, it's useful to have a better interpretation of my results.
Okay. I think in your case it's easier. In mine was a little bit difficult, but I'll send you it anyway. Okay, any more questions? No? So I'll thank you. I'll thank Alejandro again for this wonderful working paper about divorce and IPV. And thank you for presenting here. And don't forget that the call for papers for GEFAM meeting will be open soon, next week, I hope. And it closes at May 5th. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.